Well, it is not a portal show without our portal expert, Chris Hummer. The aforementioned Chris Hummer is here with us. And Chris, let's start with the ACC Rookie of the Year in 2021, now on the market. Tyler Van Dyke has hit the portal as a grad transfer with 1 year of eligibility. So who are some interested parties there?
Well, Tyler's a guy who I think has some doubters and also some supporters in the coaching space right now. He is somebody that, as you said, in 2021 was one of the best young passers in the country. And now he is in a space where he's come off 2 below average years at Miami. But I still think there are a lot of teams that think if you put him in the right system, you're going to have a ton of success. A school I'd probably keep an eye on here for is Louisville, right there in the ACC. The Cardinals have had a ton of success this year under Jeff Brom in year 1, and they'll be looking for a potential starting signal caller after the season is done. I think that would be a really natural fit. Tyler Van Dyke is also going to have interested parties in several other places, but Louisville is just one school, at least early on, that I think you should keep in mind for Tyler Van Dyke.
Elsewhere in the ACC now, we have our first major commitment. Max Johnson headed to UNC. Explain to us just how this all came together so quickly.
Well, you know, people wait until the exact minute somebody enters the portal to talk to them, and nothing ever happens ahead of time. So that's probably exactly how that went down for Max Johnson. No, I'm just kidding. Tampering happens all the time. You can see the connection there. It probably wasn't directly to the person, but it's not hard to draw a link between the 2 programs when it happens that quickly. But this kind of thing happens in this era of college football, and it's just the sport that we all cover and follow. So that's just the reality on that one. But Max is somebody, if y'all remember, if you go back to his LSU tenure in 2021, where he was considered one of the best young quarterbacks in the country, I feel like I just said that exact same sentence about Tyler Van Dyke, but that kind of the parallel applies. Perhaps a little lower ceiling with Max, but UNC needs a replacement for Drake May. Drake May has not announced that he's going to the NFL draft, but that's viewed as a foregone conclusion. And Max Johnson gives UNC an experienced plug-and-play starter. And Max, the son of Brad Johnson, is somebody that has NFL arm talent, and if he can get into UNC system and maximize that, I think he's hoping to move on to the NFL after this year.
Well, speaking of things that have miraculously come together quite quickly, it seems like the minute that it was reported that Duke quarterback Riley Leonard intended to hit the portal, he was immediately tied to Notre Dame. Our guys in particular put in 7 crystal balls in the span of just 20 minutes. But Chris, it sounds like it's not necessarily as easy as that. So who else could be involved here?
Yeah, I didn't realize that number was at 7. That was fun. But Riley Leonard, it's worth noting, went into the portal with a do not contact tag. A do not contact tag usually indicates a player knows where he's going, or at least has a decent idea of where that could be. In Riley Leonard's case, the obvious connection is Notre Dame. I'm hearing the same thing as many of my colleagues, it seems like. Riley Leonard is trending, I think it's fair to say, towards Notre Dame. But it's worth pointing out that Riley Leonard is a very talented quarterback that a lot of people have interest in. I think another school I would kind of float on the radar, at least with him a little bit, is Auburn. Riley Leonard is from Alabama. He's one of the best high school basketball players in Alabama history, or at least recent Alabama history. And you don't really have to try too hard to envision him as a great fit in Hugh Freeze's system. I would still term Notre Dame as the heavy favorite, but maybe the Tigers are a team to keep an eye on if things were to break down on the Notre Dame front.
Okay, so it looks like a 2-horse race, but one horse is far ahead of the other one. I know a lot of you tuned in thinking that there would be a recruiting show today, but clearly you all are enjoying what you're seeing. We've got a lot of people watching right now, so I'll go ahead and ask you to hit that like button. It makes us all very happy around here. Speaking of happy, another quarterback hitting the portal. I think that there's a million in the portal right now? Just a rough estimation of that. So let's talk about one of them, and that's Mississippi State quarterback Will Rogers. He was early on, probably about a week ago, apparently still has something left in his arm after throwing for the 2nd most yards in SEC history. So what does the market look like for one of the SEC's most productive passers?
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of think of Will Rogers in the same way as I think of Sam Hartman, although Sam Hartman left last year under much better circumstances at Wake Forest. Will Rogers had what I would term as a difficult season for the Bulldogs. They made an offensive switch away from the air raid. I don't necessarily think they used Will Rogers in the best way possible for much of the season. Early in the year, they tried to run the ball a lot. They kind of switched off of that, played better, and Will got hurt. So it's not like Will had the season he would have particularly wanted to have, but he's still somebody that set is one of the leading passers in SEC history. He is still somebody a lot of schools believe in as a passer. And I think Will Rogers will have a robust transfer market and does have a robust transfer market. I think if you're looking to connect the dots on him a little bit, I'd look for pass-happy offensive schemes that utilize some of those air raid principles. I can think of a couple schools out west that might be an interesting fit for Will Rogers. There are a couple schools there that certainly need quarterbacks. And if I was going to narrow my search down, I might start on that side of the country, maybe a team headed to the Big Ten soon. So I think Will Rogers is going to have a lot of interest for sure.
94 career passing touchdowns. So yeah, a pass-happy offense seems perfect for him. So he's a guy that a lot of people have heard of, but a name that maybe not many know about. New Hampshire quarterback Max Brosmer was given a 90 rating from our guys. That's pretty high. Already has some offers, it sounds like. So what's the latest with him?
Yeah, I think he's certainly more under the radar than a lot of these guys, but he did lead the FCS in passing yards this season. So he is a very accomplished quarterback. He is somebody that is drawing Power 5 interest. I reported earlier today that Wake Forest offered him last night. He already has a Minnesota offer in addition to a few G5 teams like Western Kentucky. I think a lot of schools view him as a very talented passer. I had one coach that faced him this year tell me he was without a doubt the best FCS passer in the country this season. He is somebody with legitimate arm talent, and I think he's going to be a Power 5 starter next year. It's just a matter of when. So he is certainly somebody everybody needs to keep an eye on. He's a name to know in the quarterback market.
I love it. It's not just quarterbacks. Let's talk about a wide receiver from Boise State. Eric McAlister is hoping to jump up levels. We have him graded as an 89. So what are you hearing as far as his interest?
He's a popular guy. You don't find many outside receivers his size. That is a huge need in the portal for people. He is somebody from Azle, Texas, so he is a native Texan. Some schools I think you need to keep an eye on with him would be a school like TCU, and I think TCU feels like it's in pretty good shape for Eric McAlister right now. I would expect them to earn a visit pretty quickly when that becomes available for him. I think Baylor is in it, but if you go beyond the Lone Star State, I think you'll have schools like Oklahoma, NC State, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Georgia Tech, and some others all kind of fighting for attention from Eric McAlister. And I wouldn't be surprised if Texas or Texas Tech jumped into that mix as well. So he's very popular. But right now, I think he's priority number one for TCU, and they would love to land him.
I'm sure they would. Okay, we have some viewer questions here for you. One from R. Wilmer wants to know, what is his best attribute? Talking about Riley Leonard, is it his arms or his legs? What would you say?
Well, I think you could make an argument he's the best. That's an interesting question, I guess. But I think you can make an argument he's the best running quarterback in the country. At least he was last year. I think he led all quarterbacks in rushing yards, or led the Power 5 in rushing yards. He is a pretty elite athlete for that position. But I wouldn't sell short his arm either. That athletic profile lends itself to a lot of success, but like he wouldn't have been on the first round radar for NFL scouts without a very good arm. I think he's still growing as a processor, still growing as a quarterback. But he is a really talented quarterback in both aspects of things.
Gotta get one of those legs just a little bit healthier. Before we let you go, who are some other names that we need to keep an eye on who could potentially jump in the portal in the next few days?
Well, it's been a busy couple of days in the portal in terms of this people announcing. I think if you look forward to after championship weekend, and we talk so much about quarterbacks, why not talk a little bit more? There are a couple teams I would keep an eye on. For example, Alabama has a crowded quarterback room. Jalen Milroe has pretty well established himself as QB1. I would be surprised if he wasn't back in Tuscaloosa next year, but maybe something changes on that front. I think you could see Tyler Buchner very easily moving in. Texas has an especially crowded quarterback room. There are some rumors that Quinn Ewers may return in 2024. I don't think any decisions have been made on that front. But if Quinn does decide to come back, I think you'll see a shake-up behind him. Arch Manning's the big name there. Don't really expect him to leave. But there is another really talented quarterback in that room in Maalik Murphy. He is somebody that last year a lot of schools tampered with pretty hard per sources. And I would not be shocked at all if he entered the portal and had robust interest from schools. So I would certainly keep an eye on those. You could say the same thing if you wanted to go out west. Oregon's got an interesting quarterback room behind Bo Nix. If Oregon were to go in the portal, somebody like Ty Thompson would be very popular potentially in the transfer portal. Washington's the same way. Dylan Morris, a 2-year starter at Washington before Michael Penix arrived, is still on the roster with a year to play. If they decide to go get a quarterback, Dylan Morris could go on the portal. So there's lots of quarterback names out there in addition to hundreds and hundreds of other people that are going to end up in the portal over the next couple days.
And I am sure you will be all over it. Who needs sleep this time of year? Chris, thank you so much for being on the show. You can check out more of his work at 247sports.com. We have unrivaled coverage of college football, both the portal and recruiting. Check out that portal page, though, to find up-to-date grades and some of the latest intel.